friends, my name is Becca Moore. I am the author of 2 romance novels, the sewer and crafter of things, and just all around busy person. I have always been an avid reader, and that means it's time for a mid-year check-in on everything that I have read so far this year. For this check-in, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, and I'm going to list those questions down below. So here's our first question. So the first question on the list is the best book that I've read so far in 2024, and for me this was The Next Best Fling by Gabriela Gomez. This is book 1 in her Librarians and Love series, and I think she might be a debut author, I cannot remember, but I really loved this book. It was a fantastic take on best friend's brother, except it starts out with her being in love with her best friend and the best friend's brother being in love with the best friend's fiance, and they kind of move on from there. Both of the characters had such a fantastic growth throughout the whole book that even though at the start like they both felt like they were in love with different people, by the end, like, I believed every second of it. Next up is the best sequel that I have read so far in 2024, and I am going with Better Hate Than Never, the second in the Wilmot Sisters series by Chloe Liz. And I haven't read that many sequels this year, so this one doesn't quite feel like a fair book to place here. I also have not read the first one in this series, but I really enjoyed this one, and though I haven't read that many books by Chloe, she is always a good time when I have. Next is the new release that you haven't read but want to, and for me that is A Main Character Energy by Jamie Varin, and I have my copy right here, ready to read. Just haven't done it yet. Next is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and when I made this list initially, this book was not out yet, but it came out here a week ago, and so I now have my copy of The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava, and I am really excited to read that at some point later this year. The next question on the list is about your biggest disappointment that you've read in the year so far. And for me, that was The Girls of the Kingfisher Club by Genevieve Valentine. And this broke my heart that I did not like it as much as I wanted to. This has been on my TBR for a number of years. It is a mid-20s Prohibition jazz era retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and that is one of my favorite fairy tales, and there's not often a retelling of that story. If you happen to know one, please let me know. I'm always looking for new ones. But this one just, I think part of it was really the ending. I think expecting just a little bit more from the ending, and it just kind of, it ended, which was more of a me problem than like the story problem. I wanted it to go like that next step more, show me a little bit more of what was going to happen after where the book ended. The next question was about the biggest surprise that I've read for this year, and that would have to be The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. And this started off as a Rilo fanfic, if I remember correctly. I had never read it in that form, and I had just seen this online somewhere as like a great book to read if you love that pairing. And so I picked it up and I really enjoyed it. There was a couple of rough spots, and it was very long for kind of the amount of story that is told in that length. I believe it's a trilogy, and the next I don't even remember when the next one's coming out. I don't think it's coming out till next year. But I just love the world building and just the storytelling, and I'm really excited to see where the story goes next. Next, we have our favorite new author, which for me, I have read a number of new authors to me this year, but the one that stands out the most is Nellie Wilson. I read her Curated, which is the first in the museology series, basically about some curators at a museum in, I think they're in like the Denver area, and they were just so fun and so real, and the characters just like, they felt like somebody that I'd be friends with or would meet out and about. So I can't wait to read more of hers and just see what she does next. The next two questions on the list were a little bit harder for me, and I have to say that I kind of copped out and didn't pick anything. It was the newest fictional crush and newest favorite character. I don't really develop crushes on characters that I read. I enjoy them, I appreciate them, but that's not, I don't know, something that I have ever really done. That's a lie. I haven't done that since Gilbert in Anne of Green Gables. So yeah, I didn't pick one, but I like most characters. I'm very easy to please in that way. Next is a book that made me cry, and for this I chose The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. This is a story told in kind of two timelines about trying to find someone that was lost, trying to figure out who you are, and there was, I would say, a mild story twist that I figured it out, but it made me cry. Like it was bad. So highly recommend the book. It was gut-wrenching. Now for a book that made me happy, I read For the Earl's Pleasure by Anne Mallory, and this was just fun, but also had a really nice mystery to it, and there was some ghosts, and it was like it was historical romance. I would almost say it's historical paranormal, but the paranormal aspects of it are so light that I would not classify it as a full paranormal, but it was a fantastic time. And last on the list is what books I want to read before the end of the year. I don't generally make myself a TBR for like specific months or even for the year, so I don't have a whole lot on this list. I do want to say I would like to catch up on my Emily Henry. I have not read the last couple. I already have Funny Story on audio, so I really have no excuse but to read that. So hopefully we will get to that before the end of the year. All right, now that we've gotten through all of those questions, I love stats, so I want to do a little breakdown on the stats of everything that I have read so far this year. This video is a little later than the middle of the year, so these stats are really from like January through the end of July. So far this year I have read 57 books, and 37% of those books have been less than 300 pages. 60% of those have been between 300 and 499 pages, which does not really surprise me. My reading does not really surprise me. My reading tends to be shorter to mid-length novels versus long, expansive stories. Next up, my fiction versus nonfiction breakdown. 89% of the books that I've read so far have been fiction, with 11% being nonfiction, and that also does not surprise me. One of the items that I keep track of, I could say the most, is where my books are coming from, whether that's I own them or that's coming from the library or through my Kindle Unlimited subscription. So I have tracked the number that way. And so far this year, of the books that I've read, 20 have come from either the library or library sources. So that's something like Libby, or the Cloud Library app, or a physical book from the library. I have also read, I think it's like 17 books from Kindle Unlimited this year. I have about nine arcs that I've read for this year, a couple of books from Audible, a couple of AO3s, and a couple of ebooks that I already own. Lastly, I have it broken down by format. I have read about 63% of my books on digital, which is usually through my Kindle app, or some other e-reader app such as that. 33% of my books have been audio, and only 4% of my books this year have been hard copy, or in print. So that's probably the one that surprised me the most, but I really shouldn't, because I read on my phone / Kindle app a lot. That's about it for my mid-year wrap-up. So what have you read so far this year? What has been your favorite, your least favorite, or really anything in between? Let me know in the comments. Bye!